Welcome to the Success Partner Podcast. I'm Daya Naef, your host and founder of The Success Partner. On this show, we dive into the stories of attorneys, business professionals, and entrepreneurs who have navigated the ups and downs of building successful careers and businesses. From the strategies they've implemented to the challenges they've overcome, we're here to uncover the insights that can help you on your own journey to success. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and today in the studio we have Mark Astor of Astor Simovitch Law. Mark is very interesting, and I've heard him share about what he does, and it is very impactful and very touching. He is a mental health and addiction specialist in Florida. As a lawyer and in his law firm. And Mark, I would just love for you to share more about what you do.
Well, first of all, Dan, thank you so much for having me as a guest. It's so nice to meet you, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So, as you so eloquently stated, I'm a partner in a law firm. My partner is also my wife, so she's my partner in other ways. And the mission of the firm is to save families whose loved ones have substance use, mental health disorders, and failed attempts at recovery. So we are speaking to families, typically mums and dads, not always, but usually it's mums and dads that call us from pretty much anywhere in the country. As we've had clients as far west as Hawaii, as far north as, that the New England area, and up in that area, and occasionally outside of the country. And they call us because somebody in their family, typically aged 25 to 45, has a long history of drug use and mental illness, a treatment that doesn't work, medication that they are refusing to take. Perhaps there's been an overdose or two. Perhaps there's been some involvement in the criminal justice system. And this has been going on for years and years and years. And by the time the family calls us, we're sort of the last port of call because the family, frankly, is sick and tired of being sick and tired. And they say, can you help us? And the answer to that is typically yes. But, in order to get somebody in recovery and keep them there long enough so they can experience lifelong recovery, it takes a little time. And so we have a sort of whole program, which obviously as lawyers involves a certain component of going to court and getting court orders and things of that nature. So that's what we do.
Yeah. What does that look like typically, if there's a typically?
Yeah. When I first started out, and I actually started the law firm in February of 16 out of the local library here in Boca. At the time I had no money. I was pretty much flat broke. But I had an idea, and through some grit and determination was able to grow the business. And I met my wife actually the second year I had the business, because after getting a few cases, I was able to open up a small office. So when we started working together in February 16, when I first started getting these cases, most of them involved people who were abusing alcohol and various recreational drugs. Two things really changed the dynamics of the cases that we now get: COVID and the legalization of marijuana here in Florida. And the cases went from really recreational type drug use to clinically driven, mental health driven cases. So clinically, these cases became very challenging, which also affected, the different laws that we would use, how we would handle these cases. We built a lot of resources within the firm to handle these more challenging cases, because the more challenging the patient, the more challenging the family, right? Because they're that much more traumatized and need that much more hand-holding. So our typical case, might be somebody in the early 30s, late 30s, who has probably been diagnosed 5 years, maybe 10 years ago, quite possibly is using legalized marijuana, which is considerably more dangerous than the marijuana that I knew of when I was a child in the, growing up in England in the 80s. This stuff is really dangerous, and it will permanently damage someone's brain. And so as a result, we're seeing lots of paranoia, lots of delusions. The family may have tried doing things like interventions. They may have even gotten their loved one to go into treatment for a period of time, but there's been relapses. Perhaps they've walked out of treatment. Somebody somewhere along the line some clinicians probably advised they needed to be on medication. If their family can even get them to take it, at some point they decided, well, they felt better, so why should they take the medication? Well, as soon as they stop taking it, of course, they're back to square one. And so, those are the sort of the kinds of cases that we get. But there are really three statutes that we use here in Florida, and there are times where we are using all three at the same time to get somebody into treatment and to keep them there long enough. This is a labor of love at this point. It has to be. But I have an amazing team, and we only do one thing. I don't do We're specialists, and I'm proud to say that we have the first law firm anywhere in the country that does this and only this. I don't do anything else. I'm not handling car accidents. I'm not handling divorces. I was a prosecutor and a defense attorney for a long time. I send those cases out. I don't want them. It's not what we do. We work well with criminal lawyers. We work well with family lawyers, but I don't take those cases because everything in the firm, the mission statement, the core values of the firm are designed to do this one thing. That's to save this family because somebody in the family is very, very sick.
Yeah, absolutely. How does this work? So what we're looking at here is some involuntary, I don't know if sentencing is the right word, or putting into a treatment program long enough that things can work. Like, what are some of the long term results of this?
Yeah, so typically when a family comes to us, the first thing we're going to do is sort of review everything. I want to know what's been happening for the last 5 years, 10 years. What have they tried? What's worked? What's failed? Things of that nature. Was there some kind of triggering event, some type of trauma, something like that? What are the resources of this person? Because obviously if they have access to funds, they might run, right? Are they a flight risk and things, all of these things. So let's say that we determine that this is a case where we think we can help the family. Then we have to lay out what a typical program is going to involve. And as you correctly pointed out, what we're doing is we're getting the family the authority to make the decision to save their loved one that their loved one can't make, because effectively their brain has been kidnapped. That's what I say. Your loved one's brain has been kidnapped. It looks like them. It sounds like them. It walks like them. But I promise you right now, that is not them. Because, rationally, right, why would anybody objectively, rationally want to live like this? It's because something up there has happened, right? Their brain has been kidnapped. And so we want to give the parents or whoever it is the authority to say, okay, I know that you can't save yourself, so I'm going to do it for you. In order to have that authority, we're going to go to court and I'm going to have a judge give you that authority so that you can start making decisions like your loved one's going to go to treatment. Your loved one's going to take their medication. No, they're not going to get on a plane and run to Mexico, which I've seen happen. Mm-hmm. So things of that nature. But a typical plan of action is going to involve a year-long commitment by the family. And I tell families, you don't have to hire me for a year. But we'll typically be on a case anywhere between 3 and 6 months. Sometimes we're on a case for a year, but a typical recovery program is basically takes a year, because we just know from experience, if you can keep somebody in recovery for a year, they're more likely than not to stay in recovery. They develop the habits that are needed to maintain recovery. They go to meetings on a regular basis, things of that nature. But typically, they're going to spend 3 to 6 months in some level of treatment. Typically a residential level of care and or a partial hospitalization, both of which would probably involve them living in a campus type setting in a treatment facility. After that, they're probably going to transition to some kind of recovery residence, living with people who are also in an environment where they're trying to maintain recovery. If there's medications, they got to take their medications. But at that point, we want them working the program, 12 steps, getting a sponsor, going to meetings, continuing with some type of outpatient clinical services. And we want them doing that so that we get to that 1 year. And as I tell families, this isn't like, they're in recovery, so no longer need to work the program. I've got friends who have been in recovery for 10, 15, 20 years. And without exception, every single one of them goes to a meeting every single week, all of them. And it just becomes part of their lifestyle. It's like, you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth. 3 or 4 times a week, you do a little exercise, right, to keep the mother nature and the aging process away. It's just something we do, right, and it's just part of our daily, weekly, monthly, yearly habits. And that's what it takes, right? And we want to be in a position where they can now work on their own recovery, maintain their own recovery, because at the end of the day, these are adults, and we want them to become productive members of society. We want them to live their best lives, and whatever that looks like, whether it's getting married and having children or traveling or working, whatever it happens to be, however they decide they want to live their life, that's where we need to get them to. But while all of the insanity is going on, that can't happen. It simply can't happen. And so I tell families, look, I don't have a magic wand. If I did, I promise I would wave it, right? But even if I wave it, right, the effects are a year from now. Mm-hmm. And I tell the family that when they come to talk to us, right? Because unfortunately, I see a lot of people saying, I'll do 30 days of treatment, you'll be fine. No. If you call me and tell me that you only want to do 30 days of treatment, I'm going to tell you got the wrong lawyer. I'm not going to take your case. And it's not because I don't love you or I don't care or I don't want to help you. But I know that this isn't going to work. And I want to get it right the first time for you. I'm not a lawyer who loves repeat business. Because if you're coming back a second time, something went wrong. And that doesn't mean say that anybody did something wrong. Maybe, it doesn't mean the treatment center did something wrong or your loved one did something wrong. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't work. So we want to try and get it right the first time, because by the time you get to us, I know that you're tired and you're exhausted and you've spent a lot of money already. And the idea that there may be, a solution to this problem is something that's almost unfathomable by the time you get to us. And so, yeah, I'm asking you to take a little bit of a leap of faith with us. But the proof's in the pudding. And when the clients work the program, they get great results. The ones that don't, unfortunately, continue to suffer.
Yeah, I have a friend who runs a facility in Northern Virginia, and same thing. It's a 2-year program, and they don't get. It's all privately funded by donations and foundations and things like that, because the same thing. He said the same thing. People go to the 28-day, 30-day, whatever that magic thing is that we've somehow came up with. I guess the insurance companies must have come up with it, but it doesn't work.
Unfortunately, sometimes you've got insurance companies making clinical decisions, and that is, it's totally ridiculous. I also appreciate the fact that not everybody has the resources for treatment. And, look, we have county facilities here throughout Florida. Every county has 1 or 2 facilities. We're also dialed into a couple of not-for-profits that can, in theory, provide free services for the right patient. So there's a number of ways to skin the cat. And I also have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of free resources, videos. I've got a couple of books. You can have all of that for free. You can call my office and speak to my intake department, and you can do that for free. I'm going to give as much as I can away for free, right? Obviously, if you engage my services, that's different because, well, I have to put food on the table for my family too. But there's a lot of information I can give you for free. You don't have to pay me, or you shouldn't have to pay any lawyer to get access to the information you need to decide how you, and if you even want to go about looking to go into the court system to save a loved one. But I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource, and for listeners, we'll have all this in the show notes as well. I'm just thinking, I wonder what it would take to lobby or whatever we would need to do to get that 28 days extended to a year and just make that more of the norm.
Yeah, I mean, people call me all the time. They say, well, I don't like the way the law's written. And I'm like, I'm with you. I'm with you. And, look, we just amended some of the statutes here in Florida last year. And, local CBS network called me and said, hey, can we talk to you about this? And they said, what do you think? I said, I think that they missed the boat. I said, if they'd called me, I had told them in 5 minutes what they needed to fix, and we'd have been able to help a whole lot more people. But unfortunately, got a bunch of politicians involved who know nothing about behavioral health, and now they're changing the law, which only confuses things, because it took 90 days after they changed some of these laws for the judges and the clerks and some of the lawyers to even catch up. I mean, we were rewriting pretty much all of our pleadings on the 1st of June, which is when the new law kicked in. We went, sat down. I spent all night rewriting all of the pleadings so they were legally appropriate, because otherwise they would have gotten kicked out of court. So you got to be on top of this stuff. And so, there's a lot of moving parts to this, but I agree with you. And I tell families, I get it. There's some things here that are really not right. Call your local state reps, call your local state senators, call your local congressmen and, members of the federal legislature and say, hey, can you help us to fix this? It's broken. And there's a lot of things that are broken, but, there are also some great resources here in Florida. There's some great treatment here in Florida. There's great treatment in other parts of the country too. So treatment's available, but sometimes it's a grind to find it and to sift through who the bad actors are. And there are some bad actors. There's no question about it. So we're really, really careful about who we work with too. If there's any sort of sleaze factor associated with somebody, don't call me. I'm not interested. I've got certain treatment centers, professionals in the business I won't work with. I'm just not going to do it. I won't do it.
Yeah. Whenever there's a need and a desperate need, you can get, like you said, bad actors, people that are selling a magic cure, and there's no magic cure.
There's no magic cure. There isn't. Yeah. It's not a movie where somebody, you see the movies, right, where somebody goes to bed, they sit there sweating for 3 days straight, and they wake up, oh, I'm in recovery.
I'm cured, right? It's over.
Yeah, congratulations, you're now detoxed. Time to go to treatment, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Step one, or step 0.01, negative 0.01, and not step one. Wonderful, Mark. Where do people find you?
So we've got 2 websites. One is mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. That's mentalhealthaddictionlawfirm.com. There's also bakeractattorneys.com. So bakeractattorneys.com. And that deals actually with Florida's, the Baker Act statute, which is the statute that enables the state to basically take custody of people with a mental health issue. And that system is completely draconian and broken, and happened to my family member too. So I've made a bit of a mission of mine to take the government on and get people out of the system. So you can find us on there, or just Google me, Mark, middle initial G, and then Astor, Astor. You'll find me. There's hundreds of videos on YouTube and all those other social media platforms. And I can also give the phone number to the office if you'd like. It's the main number, which is, that's it. I'm easy to find. I tell people, I'm not hiding anywhere. I'm easy to find.
Wonderful. Well, Mark, thank you so much for this is a mission. This isn't just a practice. This is absolutely a mission for you. And I can tell
thank you.
that you're passionate about it. So all my listeners out there, please, if you have a family member in need, and it seems like we all do these days, this is not an isolated incident kind of problem. It is a cultural and a population-wide issue that needs to be addressed. So thanks again for listening to the Success Partner podcast. I'm your host, Daya Naef. Please like and subscribe. And today's episode, Mark Astor has been our guest. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Daya. How was that?
Thank you for joining us on the Success Partner podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found some valuable takeaways to apply to your own business journey. Remember, this show is brought to you by The Success Partner, where we help small law firms and business owners achieve unparalleled success through strategic guidance, operational excellence, and effective marketing. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit thesuccesspartner.net to learn more. Until next time, keep striving for success, and I will see you in the next episode.